At our family reunion picnic, my sister got a diamond bracelet, while I got a gas station gift card and a birthday card with my name spelled wrong. My mom looked at me and said, "Don't start acting entitled." I put it back on the table, walked out before sunset, and by breakfast. My family was calling like one small gift had turned expensive. I walked out of my family's reunion picnic at 5:47 p.m. on a Saturday in July with nothing in my pockets and my keys in my hand. I didn't slam a door. I didn't raise my voice. I picked up my folding chair and walked to my truck without looking back. Behind me, my mother was saying something to my uncle that I could not hear and did not need to. By the time I pulled out of the park, my sister was on her phone. By the time I got home, my mother had sent 2 texts. By breakfast the next morning, 12 family members had tried to reach me because one of them had apparently done the math overnight and realized what I had been quietly paying for. This took 23 years. If you've been the quiet one in a loud family, you'll know the shape of it. Subscribe if you want to hear how it ends. Let me go back to that Saturday. I got to Rosewood Park at 9 in the morning, Pavilion 3, the same pavilion my grandfather had reserved the first year he organized the reunion in 1984. I had been running it since I was 19. This was my 23rd year. I unloaded the truck, folding tables, bags of ice, the propane tank my mother had asked me to bring, a coffee urn, the clipboard. The clipboard had the vendor list, the caterer's arrival window, the photographer's number, and a small envelope of cash for the park ranger in case he asked about the grill permit. I had been carrying that clipboard for 23 years. My mother had never asked to see it. By 10, the tables were set up, and I had run an extension cord to the outlet on the pavilion post. By 10:30, Sheila from the catering company pulled up in her white van. She had been doing the reunion since 2014, and she had done my wife's business launch in 2016. She got out of the van and said, "Corey, you look tired." I said, "Well, long week." She said, "Well, you always say that." She handed me the check request. I signed it and gave her a copy. The caterer always got paid day of. That was the deal. I had written her check on Thursday at my kitchen table. By 11, my parents arrived. My mother was carrying a gift bag in one hand and a casserole in the other. My father was carrying nothing. My father never carries anything. He nodded at me from across the pavilion. He didn't say hello. My mother walked past me without looking at me and set the gift bag on the head table. She hugged Rachel, who had arrived 10 minutes before my parents. She did not hug me. That was not unusual. It had not been unusual for about 18 years. By noon, the family was there. 32 people across 4 generations, kids running, cousins hugging, an aunt laughing too loud. My grandfather's name spoken once by my Uncle Wayne, who was standing near the coffee urn with a paper plate in his hand, watching. Wayne is my mother's older brother. He's 71. He had been watching this reunion for 41 years. He had been watching me run it for 23. At 12:40, my Aunt Maureen came over to where I was standing with the clipboard. "Corey, what did your mother use for the chairs this year? I want to get the same ones for my granddaughter's baby shower." I gave her the rental company's name. I wrote the phone number on the back of a napkin for her. She said, "Thanks, honey. Linda always says these things just come together." She walked away. At 1 o'clock, my mother gave a short speech. She stood at the head of the pavilion, holding a glass of lemonade. She thanked everyone for coming. She thanked the Lord for the weather. She said, "It means so much that we can still do this every year. Family is everything." Nobody mentioned the weather had been my call Friday morning, when I had checked the forecast and decided not to rent the tent add-on. Nobody mentioned who had set out the lemonade. Nobody needed to. Nobody ever had. At 1:30, my mother stood up and clapped her hands. She always clapped her hands when it was time for the gifts. This was the part of the reunion she loved. She reached into the gift bag and pulled out a Tiffany blue box. Everyone went quiet. She walked across the pavilion to where my sister Rachel was sitting. Rachel had positioned herself at the center of the table. Her husband was on her left. My cousin with the camera was 3 seats down, already lifting the phone. My mother handed Rachel the box. Rachel opened it. Inside was a diamond tennis bracelet, $4,200. I knew because Rachel's husband had told me on Friday at the hardware store when I was buying the propane tank. He said it the way a man shows off someone else's money. Linda went all out. Rachel lifted the bracelet out of the box and put it on. The cousin with the camera took a photo. My mother stood behind her with both hands on her shoulders, beaming. Then my mother turned around and walked back to her chair. She reached into the gift bag one more time. She pulled out a birthday card in a 99-cent envelope. The envelope was one of those generic ones that come in a bulk pack at a pharmacy. She walked over to where I was sitting. She handed me the card. She said, "Happy early birthday, honey." My birthday is in August. It was July. I looked at the envelope. My name was written across the front in her handwriting. Cory. The correct spelling is Corey. It has an E. It has always had an E. My grandfather named me. My mother was in the hospital room when he did. I had noticed the misspelling the first time at Christmas in 2019. On a gift tag I pulled out of the wrapping paper after the paper came off. I had told myself she was in a hurry. I had told myself a lot of things over 6 years. The pharmacy card was not a mistake. The envelopes come blank. She had taken a pen and written my name on it and not noticed it was wrong, or had noticed and decided it didn't matter. I opened the envelope. Inside was a birthday card that said, "For a special son," in gold lettering across a field of balloons. Inside the card was a $25 Speedway gas station gift card. Speedway is a chain. My mother does not live near a Speedway. I do not drive past a Speedway on my way to work. There is not a Speedway within 15 miles of my house. She had not picked a gas station. She had picked a card off a display at the pharmacy without looking. I sat with the card open in my hands for what was probably 3 seconds. Across the table, my cousin's wife saw the card and quickly looked at her plate. My Uncle Wayne, 2 tables over, set his coffee cup down and watched. Rachel's husband, holding a can of beer, looked at his wife's wrist, then at the card in my hand, then at the picnic table. He did not look back up. My mother was watching me. She said loud enough for the nearest table to hear, "Don't start acting entitled, Cory. It's the thought that counts." Rachel laughed. One short laugh. Her husband didn't laugh. Wayne didn't laugh. Maureen, who had been talking to my Aunt Carol, stopped mid-sentence. The pavilion went quiet in the particular way a room goes quiet when everyone has just seen something they didn't want to see and doesn't know what to do about it. I held the card in my hands for one more second. I looked down at the envelope. My name in her handwriting, the wrong letters. I thought about my grandfather who had named me in a hospital room in the summer of 1984 and had died in 1999 thinking the name on the birth certificate was safe. I thought about how many years I had been running this reunion under a name she could not spell. I thought about how I had known this was coming, in some form every Christmas since 2019, and had chosen to keep carrying the chair and the cooler and the clipboard anyway. I closed the card. I placed it on the picnic table in front of me. I did not place it carefully. I did not place it angrily. Well, I placed it the way you place a piece of mail that isn't for you on the counter for someone else to deal with. I stood up. I picked up my folding chair. I walked across the pavilion toward the parking lot. I did not say goodbye to anyone. I did not look at my mother. I did not look at Rachel. I put the folding chair in the bed of my truck. I got in. I started the engine. I pulled out of the parking lot at 5:47 p.m. My mother was saying something to Wayne as I walked past him. I did not hear it. I did not need to. I drove home with the windows down. I did not turn the radio on. I did not call my wife. The clipboard was still on the passenger seat. I had put a lot of things in that truck over 23 years. That was the first time I had put myself in it. I got home at 6:30. My wife was in the backyard watering the tomato plants. She saw me come through the sliding door, looked at my face, and did not ask. That's the thing about my wife. She has known me for 14 years. She doesn't ask the wrong question. I sat down at the kitchen table. At 7:02, my mother sent her first text. "Please call me when you get home." At 7:14, she sent her second. I don't know what that was about. I read them. I put the phone face down on the counter. At 9:03, Rachel texted, "Are you seriously upset over a gift card?" Mom is in tears. You're ruining her night. I read it once. I noticed she did not ask me anything. Not whether I was okay, not what had happened, not whether I wanted to talk about it. She had already decided what it was about, and she had decided I was the problem. I did not eat dinner. My wife made grilled cheese for herself and left half on a plate next to me. I ate it cold at 10. At 11:47 p.m., Wayne called. I looked at the screen. Wayne had not called me on a Saturday night in 7 years. Wayne does not make calls after 9. I picked up. Corey, it's Wayne. I know. Hey, Wayne. Just checking on you. That was it. That was the whole reason for the call. He was not asking about the gift card. He was not asking about the walkout. He was not going to mediate. He was 71 years old and he had known me since the day I was born, and he was calling at 11:47 p.m. to see if I was okay. I said, I'm fine, Wayne. Thanks for calling. He said, all right, you get some sleep. He hung up. I sat in the kitchen with the phone in my hand for a while. I did not go to bed right away. I went to my office and opened the filing cabinet and pulled the reunion folder out. I set it on my desk. Now, I did not open it. I just put it there, where I would see it in the morning. Then I went to bed. I didn't sleep well. My wife was already asleep by the time I got upstairs. I lay on my back for a while and listened to the house. There's a specific quiet that happens after midnight when you know the world is about to start calling you in a few hours and you have not decided what you are going to say. I had decided somewhere around 3 a.m. that I was not going to decide anything. I was going to answer the phone when I felt like it and not when I didn't. I was going to let each caller speak for themselves. I was not going to carry the conversation the way I had carried the reunion. I fell asleep at 4:20. I woke up at 6:02. At 6:14, my phone rang. It was my mother. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. I played it back an hour later. She was crying, not loud. The kind of crying that is rehearsed in the sense that she had decided somewhere between Saturday night and Sunday morning that crying would be the right move. She said my name 3 times in 41 seconds. She said, please call me. I don't know what's happening. Please. She said please 5 times. She did not once apologize. I did not call back. At 6:52, Wayne called again. I picked up. Corey, can I ask you something? Yeah. Did you pay for yesterday? I paused. Yeah, I did. All of it? Yeah. There was a long silence on the line. I could hear Wayne breathing. I could hear a clock ticking somewhere in his kitchen. Wayne said, your mother just called me in hysterics. She's been calling since 5 this morning. She's saying you abandoned the family. And I've been listening to her for 45 minutes and I finally asked her a question and she hung up on me. What did you ask her? I asked her how much the reunion cost. What did she say? She said she didn't know. I asked her who paid for the caterer. She said she'd have to check. I asked her if she had Sheila's phone number. She did not. That's when she hung up. I did not say anything. Wayne said, I've been wondering for 20 years, Corey. What do you mean? I said something to her once. In 2004, at your cousin Sarah's graduation, she had bought Rachel a gold bracelet and given you a Barnes & Noble gift card. You were 22. I pulled her aside in the parking lot and asked her what she thought she was doing. She told me I didn't understand her children. She told me to mind my own business. She told me that if I said one more word about it, she would not be speaking to me for the rest of the year. And you didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. For 20 years, I kept waiting for you to do something I could back you up on. I thought you would eventually. I thought you knew. I should have said something then. I should have said something every year since. I'm sorry it took you walking out of a pavilion for me to finally open my mouth. I closed my eyes. I said, it's okay, Wayne. He said, it isn't. But I hear you. Is there anything you need? Not from you, no. From her? I thought about it for a moment. Not yet. All right, you know where I am. He hung up. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. At 8 o'clock, my Aunt Maureen called. Maureen is Wayne's other sister, my mother's younger sister. She is the one my mother tells the family stories to first. Corey, honey, it's Aunt Maureen. Hi, Aunt Maureen. Your mother is beside herself. She didn't sleep all night. You know how she gets. I know. Whatever happened, can you just call her? This isn't like you. Aunt Maureen. Yes. Did you ask her what happened? I'm asking you. That's not what I asked. She didn't answer. I hung up. At 10 o'clock, my cousin Danielle called. Danielle is 34. She was at the picnic. She was 3 seats from where I was sitting when the gift card landed in my hands. Corey, hey, I just want to say, I think this is all a misunderstanding, and maybe we should all just sit down and talk about it. Danielle, your mom loves you. Rachel loves you. Everybody's upset, and I just think if we could all just get in a room and talk about it, and we could figure this out. What am I misunderstanding? She paused. What? You said this is a misunderstanding. I'm asking what you think I'm misunderstanding. I just mean, the gift card thing. I think your mom didn't mean it the way it came across. How did it come across, Danielle? Why are you being like this? I'm trying to help. I'm not doing a group meeting. I'm not mediating. There's nothing to mediate. Corey, you're being so cold right now. It's not like you. That's the second person this morning who's told me what I'm like. Because you're not acting like yourself. I'm acting like myself for the first time in a long time, Danielle. That's what you're hearing. She made a small sound, something between frustration and a sob. I don't know what to tell my mom. Tell her what you saw. I hung up. At 11:30, my Rachel called. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Corey, come on, we're family. This is crazy. Rachel, I'm your sister. Rachel, how much did your bracelet cost? She did not answer. I said, how much, Rachel? She said, why does that matter? How much? I don't know exactly. You don't know. Mom bought it. I didn't ask. Your husband told me on Friday. She was quiet. Through the phone, I heard her husband's voice in the background. He said something short. Rachel said away from the phone, I don't need help with this. He said something else, something that ended with the word bracelet. Rachel came back to the phone. I have to go. I figured. I hung up first this time. At 1 o'clock, my mother called again. I picked up this time. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to see what the second attempt sounded like. Maybe because I was curious. She was not crying anymore. Corey, I think we need to talk like adults. I think we've both overreacted. I'd like to move past this. Both? What? You said both. Well, yes. What did I do that was an overreaction, Mom? You left the party, honey. You made a scene. I left quietly. You left. I heard you. Corey, I heard you, Mom. She tried to keep going. She said something about family. She said something about how it's not too late to fix this. She said something about my father being upset. Then she said, your father's going to call you this afternoon. I told him what to say. Please listen when he calls. He's been up all night worrying. That was her mistake. She hadn't meant to say it that way. She had meant to say something like, your father wants to talk to you, or your father has been trying to reach out. What came out instead was I told him what to say. She caught it. She tried to soften it. She started to say something about how hard this was on him. I didn't let her finish. I said, I heard you. I hung up. At 4 p.m., my father called. I looked at the screen for 2 rings. Then I picked up. Dad. There was a long pause. I could hear his breathing. I could hear the refrigerator in the background of his kitchen. He said, your mother asked me to call you. Another pause. He said, she didn't ask me what to say. Another pause. Then he said, I'm sorry, son. 3 words. He hung up. I sat at the kitchen table with the phone in my hand. My father has not said those words to me in 31 years. Well, passive was the word I had used for him when I wanted to be generous. It had been the wrong word. He had been at the picnic. He had watched it happen. He had said nothing. He had said nothing for 31 years. But he had known. I put the phone down. I did not call him back. At 6 p.m., the house was quiet. My wife was reading on the couch in the other room. The reunion folder was on the kitchen table, open to a receipt from 2011. Sheila's first invoice, $1,847 for 60 people. I had paid it on a Tuesday. I had deposited it in the file on a Wednesday. I had not looked at it since. The refrigerator hummed. I sat with the folder open. I did not need to read the receipts. I had read them as I filed them, 23 times once a year, always on the Friday night before the reunion or the Friday night after. I knew what was in the folder. That was the point of keeping it. My mother had been telling extended family for 23 years that she and I split the reunion costs 50-50. She had said that phrase to her pastor, to her sisters, to my Uncle Wayne. I had never corrected her. I had thought the number didn't matter as long as the work got done. The number was the work. The number was how you knew whose reunion it was. She had never paid half. She had paid the cost of her own groceries and a few table decorations. I closed the folder. I put it back in the filing cabinet. I did not expect the evening to be easier than the afternoon had been. I was right. At 6:43, my phone buzzed. A text from Danielle. Not a call. A screenshot. Rachel had started a group chat earlier in the afternoon. 4 cousins. Not me. Danielle was one of them. And in the chat, Rachel had written, "Help me get through to Corey. He's being insane. Mom is falling apart. He's always been like this, honestly. He thinks because he has more money than us, he can just walk out on everyone." The other 3 cousins had not replied. Danielle had not replied in the chat. She was sending the screenshot to me. There was no message from her, just the screenshot. I read Rachel's words twice. Then I saved the screenshot in the folder on my phone where I had started saving things that morning. At 6:51, my phone buzzed again. An email notification. I opened it. The email had been sent to my work address. From my mother. "Corey, I don't know if you're reading your phone. I thought I would try here. Please call me at the house tonight." Mom, she had emailed my work account at 6:49 p.m. on a Sunday. When she had gotten that address from a company function in 2019 where she had met my manager. She had not used it in 6 years. I did not reply. I did not forward it to anyone. I saved it. At 8 p.m., my mother called for the 3rd time that day. I let it ring 4 times, then I picked up. "Corey, Mom." Her voice was different now. The crying was gone. The reasonable tone from 1 o'clock was gone. Something else was underneath. "Corey, I've been thinking all day, and I want to say something to you, and I want you to listen without interrupting." "Okay. I want to explain something to you, and I want you to actually hear me. Rachel needs things. She needs them in a way you don't. She has always been the one who needed more. More attention, more help, more reassurance. That is who she is. I love you both, but I am not blind to who my children are. You have always been the kind of man who doesn't need to be taken care of. You got that from your grandfather. He was the same. He was self-sufficient. He was the rock. You are the rock, Corey. The bracelet was because your sister needed something beautiful this year. She needed to feel seen. The gift card was because I know you. You don't need that from me. If I had given you a $4,000 bracelet, you would have said it was too much. You would have been embarrassed. I was being fair to who each of you actually is. That is what a mother is supposed to do. She is supposed to know her children. And if you think this is about a gift card, then I don't know what to say to you. Maybe you're not the man I thought you were. Maybe all those years I was proud of you for being independent, you were actually just keeping score." She stopped. I let the silence sit. Then I said, "Mom, yes, you said Rachel needs, and I don't. Yes, Rachel needs a mother. I don't, so you should be hers." Silence. "Good night, Mom." I hung up. I put the phone face down on the kitchen counter. My wife was standing in the doorway. She had been there for the end of the call. She said, "That was the first time you ever told her the truth." I did not answer. She walked to the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and set it down next to me. She said, "Come to bed when you're ready." She went upstairs. Sunday night around 11, Wayne texted me. "I went through the last 5 years of your reunion folder this afternoon. I hope you don't mind. I sent copies to Maureen and to Aunt Carol and to my cousin David. They all asked. And they all needed to see it for themselves. Your mother has been telling people for 20 years that she split the cost with you. None of them knew. None of them ever saw a receipt. They all thought she was exaggerating her own generosity. They did not know she was erasing yours." I read the text twice. I wrote back, "Thank you, Wayne." He wrote, "Get some sleep, Corey." I went to bed at 11:47. I woke up Monday morning at 6:30 to 63 notifications. The family group chat, which normally had 40 messages a day about birthdays and grocery store sightings, had gone dead Sunday evening at 8:17. 12 hours of silence. At 6:03 that morning, one of Wayne's cousins had posted a single message. "I hope everyone is okay." Nobody had replied. I scrolled past it. I made coffee. I read the news for 20 minutes. At 8:20, Danielle sent me a screenshot. Rachel had unfollowed 6 people on Instagram overnight. Me, my wife, every cousin who had seen her group chat. I poured a second cup of coffee. At 9:04, Sheila called. "Corey, Sheila, just so you know, your mother called me 10 minutes ago. She wanted to book next year's reunion. The same date, same pavilion, same menu. She said she was taking over the planning this year." "What did you say?" "I said I only work with you. I've worked with your family for 11 years. Your mother has never called me once in those 11 years. The woman on the phone this morning was a stranger giving me her credit card number, like she thought that was how catering works." "Did she push?" "She tried. She said she was Linda Whitman. She said she was your mother. Like that was supposed to open a door." I told her I didn't need her name. I told her I didn't need her phone number. I told her my answer was no, and there was nothing that was going to change that. She got angry. She said I had a professional obligation to the family. I told her my professional obligation is to whoever signs my checks, and that has always been you. She hung up. She hung up. But Corey, before she hung up, she said, "I'll find another caterer. I want you to know, the people in this town who do what I do, we know each other. We all know the story by now. She won't find one. Not for next July, not for the date she wants." I said, "Thank you, Sheila." She said, "I should have called you 2 years ago. When I did your wife's business launch in 2016, I thought you two were the kind of people I would have as clients forever. I've watched your family use you for 11 years. It took me too long to say something. It's all right. It's not, but I hear you." She hung up. I sat with the coffee in my hand, and I thought about Friday night. I had written Sheila's check at my kitchen table. I had deposited the final receipt in the folder, and then I had done something I had done every year for 23 years, except this year. I had not booked next year's pavilion. Every year on the Friday night before the reunion, I would call Rosewood Park and put down the deposit for next year. Pavilion 3, 4th Saturday in July, $185 deposit. The reservation would go on the books for 12 months out. That call took me 11 minutes. I had made it every year since 2002. This year on Friday night, I had picked up the phone. When I had dialed the first 3 digits of the Rosewood Park office number, I had put the phone back down. I had poured myself a glass of water and gone to bed. I had not known consciously that I was going to walk out of the picnic the next day. But some part of me had known. Some part of me had looked at Friday night's final receipt and at the 23 years of receipts stacked behind it, and had declined to add year 24 to the pile. By Monday morning at 9:30, the pavilion for 4th Saturday of July next year was booked by somebody else. A woman my mother had never heard of was going to hold her daughter's birthday party there. 32 members of my family would not be inside Pavilion 3 on the 4th Saturday of July. For the first time in 23 years. My mother would figure this out sometime Monday afternoon, when she called Rosewood Park to do what she had never done before. At 11:14, Rachel texted, "I need to borrow money. Mom says the reunion is canceled and I'm behind on my mortgage and I don't have anyone else to ask." I read it twice. I saved it in the folder on my phone. That was the first time in 33 years Rachel had asked me for money directly. Not through my mother, not through a favor, not through the family's gift economy, directly. The diamond bracelet was on her wrist, I assumed, while she typed that message. It was worth more than 2 months of her mortgage. She had not sold it. She was asking me instead. I did not hate her for it. I just saw her for the first time as what she was. A 38-year-old woman whose whole life had been held up by a mother who gave her things she had not earned to maintain an image the mother found useful. Without the mother's subsidy, Rachel had no plan. She had never needed one. I did not reply. I did not cash her in. I did not forward the text. I just saved it. 10 days later, I sat at my desk in the home office. It was a Thursday evening. The sun was going down. My wife was making dinner in the kitchen, and I could hear her talking to the dog about something the dog had done in the yard. The reunion folder was on my desk. It had been on my desk for 10 days. I had not opened it since Sunday evening. I picked it up. I opened the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet. The drawer was one of several. This one was the section I had labeled old 10 years ago when I had started putting files in it that I was done with. Old tax returns, old car titles, the deed to the house my wife and I bought in 2013, a folder of my grandfather's letters from the 1990s. I placed the reunion folder in the drawer. On top of the stack, I closed the drawer with my foot. I turned off the desk lamp. I left the office and walked to the kitchen, where my wife was draining pasta. The folder had taken up 23 years. It took 11 seconds to put away.